Hello, Wear Many Hats listeners. It's me, Mark Robinson, your host on the podcast. Got another great one for you today, but as ever, please like, follow and share our LinkedIn page so that we can continue to bring you fantastic facilities management content. Really excited today. He's sat in front of me, so I'd like to welcome Sean Lofthouse, Senior Building Manager at Knight Frank Promise. How you doing, Sean?
Thanks for inviting me on.
No, it's an absolute pleasure to have you. Have you had a busy day?
Every day's busy.
Yeah.
Every day's different, but every day's busy. Yeah. Mobilising a brand new building. Well, I say brand new, PC back in August now. So
Right.
31 St James's Square.
Lovely.
100,000 square foot prime real estate.
Yeah.
Fully let. Finished coming out of mobilisation with that. Got 5 new different tenants moving in.
Yeah.
5 different fit outs going on.
Wow.
So yeah, it's 100 mile an hour at the moment.
Do you enjoy the mobilisation stage?
To be fair, I feel like I'm kind of like the mobilisation expert when it comes to Knight Frank. I've only ever been put into buildings that have been under refurbishment or are brand new.
That's good,
I seem
though.
to be dealing with fit outs and more than I do with tenants. But
Yeah, you've clearly got a talent for it then, Sean. If they're
yeah, that's derived from when I first started working with Mark Healy back in 5, 6, 7 years ago now, when they put me straight into a building that was half tenanted, half refurbed, and they did it like that in a step process, and it was so it's what I've done since I first started coming to FM. So yeah, it's what I'm comfortable and what I'm confident at doing.
yeah. So do you? Because obviously, when you're mobilising a building, you've got multiple things that you're having to.
Well, it's not just mobilising a new building; it's dealing with all the fit out that's going on around it, or the contractors on site, the different suppliers, the different subcontractors, all the different variants that come with that. Everyone works slightly differently.
Yeah.
Obviously, maintaining and looking after my client and any tenants that are in at the time, or any tenants that are due to come in.
Yeah.
Very apt name to discuss that. I've got to wear 4 or 5 different hats on a daily basis.
Exactly.
Dealing with contractors, clients that are very involved, with regards to a brand new building they've spent a lot of money investing in. New tenants, looking after them. They're the number one. They're the ones that pay into the service charge and pay our wages, so to speak.
Right.
And then, dealing with the team, mobilising a brand new team, getting brand new people into a building. So, there's loads of different hats I need to put on in order to do that.
Yeah. Did you get a real sense of achievement once it's done and everything's up and running? And did you? Because whenever I do something, I kind of look back at it and go, I did that.
Yeah, it becomes your baby.
Yeah.
It becomes your baby. You do feel proud once it's done and everyone's moved in and the building's running as it should.
Yeah.
There's always legacy issues you've got to deal with, but hopefully you're good enough at dealing with them so the tenants don't notice.
Yeah.
But nothing's perfect. But I do enjoy it. Looking back on Feta Yard, it's finished, done. Tenants are in, and it's ticking over. And I was there from before it was literally knocked to pieces. Really gutted out completely throughout, and they delivered a brand new building with all new plant, essentially. And it's sitting there now, and it's definitely. I know the building inside out, and it's definitely my baby. So that's the way you look at it.
Lovely.
Once it's done, for sure.
All right then, Sean. Well, listen. Tell you what, nice easy one. Walk us through your career, and then tell us how you ended up in facilities management.
Okay. Yeah. So weren't the greatest at school. I'll be completely honest.
Neither was I, mate.
No. Bit of a. I suppose you'd call me a tearaway, so to speak.
A toe rag, as my mum used to call
rag,
me,
as you Northerners would say.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely weren't for me. Left school, age of 16.
Same.
Had several jobs in the age of 16. Couldn't really find out what I was doing. Just wanted to earn a bit of money.
Yeah.
Roofing, working in factories.
Yeah.
Furniture factories, like sofas, that sort of thing. Yeah, anything I could do to get my hands on a bit of cash.
Yeah.
Didn't really know what I wanted to do. And then did that for a good 2-3 years until I found a job working in Lloyd's TSB as customer service centre.
Oh, really?
From the age of about 18 to 19, I opened a customer service centre in Chelmsford, my hometown.
Yeah.
Back office, processing direct debits, checks.
Oh, really?
Looking at fraudulent stuff behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And they filled it with 300 to 400 19, 20-year-olds.
I bet that was a good laugh, though. I bet the social element was good.
Well, I met my wife there as well. So.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, no, I met my wife there when I was 20, she was 18, and we're still together now.
Right.
2 years later. So yeah, no. So I've definitely got fond memories. Made some good friends.
Yeah.
But got a bit too comfortable there. Stayed there longer than I should have done.
Right.
It was easy. It was in my hometown.
Yeah.
It was social aspect was good.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed it. Had my children while I was there, and then realised once I had my second child, I needed to look at a career and what I can do from there.
Right.
Really. So just a pure chance. I was looking around trying to figure out what to do. Friend of a friend, chap called Mark Tyson.
I know Mark Tyson.
Yeah.
We've had him on the show.
Yeah, Mark Tyson. He works for Mighty now, I believe. He was a young whippersnapper back then. He was a graduate. He was working for Reliance Security.
Yeah.
As a contracts manager.
Yeah,
One of his many placements that he had.
Yeah, he had a chat. He actually talked to us about that on the show.
I went to an open day because I heard about him and what they were looking for. And he essentially took me under my wing. Didn't just employ me as a security officer, promised me development and taking me doing a bit of operation support.
Right.
And he was good to his word, went into a site as a security officer, become a security supervisor within a matter of months on this site, just in Chelmsford again.
Yeah. So he became kind of like a mentor for you then?
Yeah, he was definitely one of my first mentors, someone that could see my potential.
Right. That's great though. You need people like that, don't you?
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You need people that believe in you.
Yeah, without doubt.
I think for me personally, not got the best relationship with my dad, and not that I need a father figure, but to have men that believe in you, I think it's important.
I agree.
People you can look up to that are a bit older than you and have got a bit more experience.
You can aspire to. Without a doubt.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the case for me. So and I did that, and he moved on, and I moved on from that role locally. Got a job as an operations security manager at the Olympics, London 2012.
I bet that was cool.
It was brilliant.
Yeah.
I had a great time on that. Worked there for a couple of years. It was chaos, but great fun.
Were you over at Stratford then?
Yeah, on the Olympic Park. Right. Worked as we did the common parts, so to speak. So looking after, during the Olympics, 200, 300 security officers with a
I bet you got some stories out of that one.
Well, we moved in during the actual Olympics themselves. They put us up in flats around the around the park, so we were on call. We could be there whenever we needed.
Right.
And gave us a food allowance. We were just watching it.
Yeah.
And then when we were there in it, it was great. Best, one of the best, most fun I've ever had in a job.
Really?
Because it was just such a dynamic environment to be involved in, and I love my sports as well. I love everything about the Olympics. So to work through an Olympics in your home, your capital of your home country. Yeah, it was a real like highlight of.
I bet it was
real highlight of my life, not just my career.
We had a guy on the show a couple of months ago, Robin Bland, and Robin Bland did a very similar thing, but with cleaning. So his kind of first touch into it was managing, I think it's similar, 400 or 500 cleaners or something like that at the Olympic Games. Yeah. But he said the same thing, had a great time doing it.
Yeah,
it was such an experience.
Yeah, I worked there before, a little bit after, and then I had to move on from there. It was only obviously a limited contract.
Yeah.
And then from there, went for commercial security, which is where I wanted to go, get into the city.
How did you find that in terms of? Because it's a bit of a different world, isn't it?
Well, do you know what I had to fear. I had to apply for jobs. Ended up getting a job managing as an ops director, working for a small security firm called T-Class Security.
Right.
That was retail security. They did retail security and door supervisors, but I went into the retail side of security officers, and they worked with some high-end brands around Bond Street. And
retail security is the hardest security.
Do you know what? It was, these high-end clients, you've got your Gucci's, your Pradas and all these, but they don't want to pay anything for their security officers.
Right. Grudge purchase.
Yeah, absolutely. So. But they want,
top end,
but they're paying minimum wage.
Yeah.
And that wasn't a very good experience. It was a job I had to take. They promised me the world and under-delivered in every aspect of the word. Quite a really challenging environment. Quite a pack mentality with regards to the MD and everyone he had around him. A lot of bullying that went on there. Yeah, it wasn't a nice place to work.
Right.
So very quickly moved on from that.
Yeah.
Probably the the toughest time I had working for somebody, and the most unhappy I've been in my working career. So
Right. Okay.
from there, I wanted to go into, your commercial security.
Yeah.
And working in your buildings, and I managed to get a job with PCL Whitehall, working in the Walbrook building
Oh, lovely.
as a security manager over there. And that was when I was for my first introduction to Knight Frank.
Really?
Yeah, so that's when I first met Jason Taylor. He was the regional director at the time.
The godfather of FM.
The godfather of FM. The Hoff, as he's
The Hoff.
known within in the inner circles, head of facilities. And yeah, that's when I first met him. He was the regional director at the time. I worked with the Knight Frank team on that building, which was Jason Gallahawk. Don't know if you know him. He works for
No, I don't.
CBRE now, I think. If he's
Right.
listening to this, I might be wrong, so apologies, Jason. He was my technical building manager. Julia Sabo, who's still with Knight Frank, but she went back to her home country in Hungary, but she's still working for Knight Frank, I believe.
Right.
Well, she might be with CBRE, because I remember they actually got the contract for that building afterwards, so I might be wrong completely on that.
Okay.
Yeah, that was my first introduction to Knight Frank, and really enjoyed that, and started to understand what their processes and their policies and the way they worked.
Yeah.
Being a subcontractor, being the security manager, I always worked quite closely and I always felt part of that FM team.
Yeah.
And that's when I realised that I didn't want to be in security forever. I wanted to start integrating over to the FM side as well.
Yeah.
So I worked there for about a year and a half, and the supplier that I was working for at the time, PCL Whitehall, lost the contract there.
Right.
And Wilson James come in and overtook that. So I 2P'd over to them, stayed in the building for about another 3-4 months. And then PCL Whitehall come back to me and said, we've got this great building for you. We think it's a great opportunity. He's a security manager, but they want the security manager to know everything there is to know about FM as well, work alongside the building manager.
Right.
I said, that sounds great.
Yeah.
Went for an interview over there, and that's when I met Mark Healy.
Right.
Who is single-handedly one of the most important people in my life.
Right. Okay.
For sure.
Yeah.
Definitely in my career.
Yeah.
But he's contributed a lot in my life as well. He was my building manager, taught me everything I need to know about FM.
Yeah.
Anything that man doesn't know about FM is not worth knowing.
Really?
Absolutely.
Right, Mark, if you're listening, we need to get you on the show.
You need to come on, Mark, and tell us your stories.
Yeah.
Everyone will say the same. You know, anyone that's come across him, Jason, Mike Toohey, a few people you've had on this podcast, he's integral to me, myself, and he was definitely integral to a lot of things that Promise have done good over the years.
That's great though to hear that, to hear that an individual has had that kind of impact on your career. I think that's lovely.
Absolutely. And yeah, we worked at Aldwych House together as his security manager, but alongside him on a multi-million-pound refurbishment of Aldwych House. So that's when I got introduced to the world of fit outs and refurb and all the fun and games that come.
And that's it. You were away. That's it.
I was away, and I worked there with him for 3 or 4 years, and then he gave me my first opportunity as a BM over at Fetty Yard. Right. Barnard's Inn, as it was called then.
Right.
And that was straight into a major refurbishment. So,
that's out of the frying pan into the fire, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's what I was comfortable doing. I think that was the choice that was made, and I thought I'd been primed for it. So I went over there with his support. Still as my line manager. Officially my line manager. He'd become, officially working for Knight Frank at that point. Yeah. Which was about 5-6 years ago. And
did you think that moving into that kind of environment where there's so much going on, it's your first building, but did that help because you learned so much by going through that process?
Well, everything I'd learned from Aldwych House, everything I'd learned and been experienced there, it was the same but different at Barnard's Inn. Right. So, and Mark was still there, available for me to lean on, and he was, as he always is. I can ask for someone to be more supportive and on hand to guide me through the first stages of understanding what it takes to be an FM, as well as just dealing with everything that's on site, looking at service charges, looking at client interaction, looking at contract management, all them other aspects that I wouldn't have got too involved in being a security manager. Yeah. I'd have got involved in the day-to-day site stuff, but then all the other bits and pieces that comes with it, starting to get involved in invoicing, purchase orders, all that. So him and a chap who's sadly not with us anymore, Will Monk. I don't know if anyone else has spoke to you about Will Monk on any of your podcasters. He was the partner for Knight Frank Property Asset Management. Right. And obviously us building managers and FMs, I our overarching client, so to speak, but we're all one team. Knight Frank, and he was the head of Central London. And yeah, we would, the team would be your partners and your surveyors. So it was Will. My first partners and surveyors, Will Monk, Robin Stevenson, who is a great man himself.
Yeah.
Obviously, Mark Healy and myself would be responsible for running that building. So, and Will Monk's another one who I couldn't have asked for more. I knew him from my days at Aldwych House as a security manager.
Yeah.
He was, it's very sad. You know, he's died suddenly of a heart attack 2.5 years ago now. It really did rock the business to its core, you know, when that happened. I remember we all got called onto a Teams meeting because it was during early, COVID times. Yeah. And, just didn't expect to hear that news.
Was he a younger man?
He was only, he was in his 40s. So he was only 5-6 years older than what I was.
So a shock.
It was a massive shock. It was, it's hard. It was sudden. It was, too young.
Yeah, very difficult. Very difficult. I think, as well, just as a business to come to terms with that kind of loss in what sounds to me like a very sort of family kind of team. You know, that's certainly the way it comes across.
Yeah, no. Anyone that's worked for him would have said the same thing about him. He looked after the people that wanted to work hard, and he was there for you every step of the way. And he just wanted you to be better. Right. He'd be very direct and to the point. Yeah, that's what I liked. But he would support you to the hilt. You know, he'd always have your back. If you had your tenant meetings that you have every quarter for your buildings, you know, he would support you to the death in them meetings. And even if you were wrong, he would tell you, he would stick up for you in the meeting, and then he'd bollock you afterwards and tell you what you did wrong. But he'd never do it in front of people. Yeah. He was integral to making me the FM I am today as well, for sure.
Right, okay.
Just, the partner of the business, and Robin, who really Robin Stevenson, who really stood up when that tragic news happened. And, he got made partner shortly before that happened, but he's now, heading up Central London, so to speak. Right. Took on Will's mantle, who was his mentor, and really stood up and guided us all through that difficult period of time, because him and Will were very, very, very close. Yeah. Really brought it home what it means to work for Knight Frank and for the Promise team, because it just cemented for me what a people orientated and focused company they are. It was a tough time, but we've come through it stronger, for sure. It certainly sounds like quite a tragic loss, both professionally and personally. Personally he was really good, for me, made me a better FM, made me a better person. Work with him and Mark and everyone else around me, I've really had a really good grounding, really good introduction to FM. I couldn't have asked for more. They made me stronger and better in every single way. It's like going back to Fetter Yard. So that's where I was as a building manager. Obviously worked through that. Soon realised that I didn't have enough going on with that. They gave me the Forum, 33 Gutter Lane as well, after about 1.5 years, which is Knight Frank's city office based there, so very eyeballs on. Yeah, I remember you saying, actually. Yeah. Although it's only 80,000 square foot building. Yeah. Very much, if something's wrong in that building, Knight Frank City Office will get on the phone to our partners and our surveyors, and they'll let them know there's an issue rather than coming to the FM. So you've got to make sure that things are right at that building. So of course. It's a tough one to manage, but did that really well. So I had them 2 buildings. They gave me another property around the corner from that, 10 Foster Lane, that I managed for a while. So I was multiple buildings. That was keeping me busy enough. I imagine so. Yeah, keeping me busy enough, for sure. Get you out of trouble. Yeah, during that time as well, I made an effort to get involved in everything. Other focus groups and initiatives that Promise were introducing, like the people group, which is just making sure that we're growing the business from a people perspective. We're looking after our people. The people board. Health and safety, I was on the Prevent board, which is just a health and safety focus group.
Right.
Just got involved as much as I could to help the business develop and grow as well.
So great opportunities within the business for you to enhance your skill set.
Yeah.
And so on. Because I know that you are very heavily involved from the mental health perspective, aren't you? You're quite an advocate of that within the business.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well-being and feeling that you work in a place where people care about you is what matters most to me. From managing them 3 buildings, that didn't come without lots of bumps in the road during that time. It probably started when I was managing Fetty Yard with just that building at the time. But if I look back even further with regards to my mental health, it was deteriorating while I was a security manager at Aldwych House.
Right.
And it kind of come over to me at Fetty Yard. And yeah, it was just a real tough time. This was in 2020.
Yeah.
Where it all comes to fruition during lockdown.
Is that why? Is that when you kind of, because there's a realization generally, isn't there, that there's something happening?
Listen, I always knew that I've struggled with mental health from my whole adult life. I never would have realised what it was, but I've always been depressed. I've always struggled with anxiety.
Yeah.
Ever since I can remember.
Right.
But I never really understood what it was.
Yeah.
Or how to deal with it. Didn't know who I was. Didn't know what made me tick. What I enjoyed. Why I was who I was.
Yeah.
So yeah, it all come to a head back in 2020 during probably a little bit before that as well.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, I was working at Fetty Yard, and I was coming into work and nothing was, I was staring at a screen. Just didn't know.
Yeah.
Just didn't know. I couldn't do anything. I was just almost frozen. And it was like that for a long time. Just tried to just push through and just trying to put a brave face on it and not let anyone know how I was really feeling.
Like on autopilot.
Autopilot.
Yeah.
And I just had a massive panic attack one day. On the way to work.
Yeah.
And this is where Mark Healy comes in. I called him and just said, I was sitting at my desk. I remember it very vividly.
Yeah.
I called him and just said, Mark, I'm not good. I phoned my doctor. I'm going to go and see him. I don't know what's going on. I can't breathe. I'm feeling awful. I don't know what to do with myself. And, he just said, look, Sean, just finish up what you're doing, go and see your doctor. And then from there, that's when it all really started talking about, my mental health and what was going on and how I can be helped and what support there is for me. But the support from focusing on what we're doing here today, the support I got from Knight Frank Promise was second to none. It was quite overwhelming, with regards to the way Mark it was very clear from the very start that don't worry about work. Yeah. It's you that we care about. Yeah. It's you that, we want to get right. Work we'll look after work. Yeah. Let us look after you. Yeah. And you look after yourself. So that was sort of when I sort of started doing something about it and made a bit of a change in my life. But it's always, I started exercising, doing the right things, speaking to the right people and dealing with what was going on in my head. Yeah. Probably tried to come back to work a little bit early and ended up going off again. And then I was on some, I've been on antidepressant medication for quite a long time from that period. Yeah. I will get to the point in a minute about what we've been doing in mental health wellbeing at Promise. I'm just trying to give the backstory from what.
No, this is fine. Look, I think, sharing this, firstly, it's very courageous of you to do so in this format.
I think it's important we talk openly about this sort of thing.
But there'll be people out there that listening that may have similar issues. So, being able to help them or give them ways is brilliant.
Thank you very much. That's no problem at all. This is what people should feel comfortable enough to be able to share. Yeah. But they don't. It's just, so I'm all for open talking. And it's opened so many doors for me and gave me so much support with regards to made me a stronger person. So I think it's the only way forward. Completely agree. So yeah, and I've had ups and downs from that period, but I think it come to a head again during lockdown. It was really tough. I was drinking a lot to try and deal with self-medicating again. Yeah,
self-medicating.
The same things that helped me a year or so before weren't helping again. Right. I remember calling Mark one morning. I was just sitting down by a lake just on my route to walking from home to the station to come into London, and I just called him. I said, "Oh, okay, I don't want to be here anymore. I've had enough. I'm having some really dark thoughts." And he just stayed on the phone, talked us to turn around, walk towards house, stayed on the phone with me, just talked me through till I got to my front door, and he said, "Call who you need to call, speak to who you need to speak to, get yourself well, and I'm here for you." And he's always stuck by that.
Yeah.
And then they gave me, what Knight Frank had at the time, their wellbeing telephone numbers for counselling, and I went through all sorts of different counselling with Knight Frank.
Yeah. Was that
Knight Frank provided
CBT counselling?
No, they have they call it. I can't remember what the official name is for it. But
That's all right, it doesn't matter.
You have access to counselling and CBT if it's necessary, and hotlines. You can talk to anyone at any time. That type of thing. And that's when during that time in 2020, that's when I gave up drinking. Yeah. I don't smoking, everything. I've been completely sober now for 3.5 years.
Congratulations.
Yeah. So, and that was been a big change in my life, and I think that was a lot of the contributing factors to why it didn't help my depression and anxiety.
Yeah.
And then 2021, after I'd been through that really difficult time, Knight Frank do these annual awards called Excellence Awards. They have this particular category called Inspiration.
Right.
Inspiration, Excellence. And my peers, a few of them, from what I'm told, nominated me and put me forward. And they all had to write, fill out a nomination questionnaire, so to speak, as to why they think I deserved it. And it's judged by an independent panel of suppliers that Knight Frank use. Yeah. And they gave me the award off the back of that in 2021.
Right.
Which was, I didn't expect. It was nice.
How did that feel?
Yeah, it felt.
Did it feel like an element of validation? And
it almost really at that time completed. I'd gone through a lot. Yeah. And I was at the other end by that point. I'd come back to work and I was killing it again.
Yeah.
I'd gone through all that. I'd gone through all that pain and trauma, and I dug up a lot of stuff from my past, and I dealt with it, and I was back, and I was better than ever.
You felt like you again.
Never felt like myself. I felt like me. I felt like I finally found who I was. I never felt. I can't say I ever felt like me again, because I never felt like that in the first place.
That must have been such a cool feeling.
Yeah. So feeling of contentment, doing the right things, understanding who I was, what makes me tick, where I was to blame for stuff that I blamed other people for. I'd worked on all that, so it was a big difficult process. But I'd come back to work, and I not only did I benefited from everything that I'd done on myself, my family obviously benefited massively, and my job and everyone I worked with benefited from that massively as well. And that culminated in this award being given to me at the end of 2021.
Yeah.
So it was a great feeling. It was lovely. It was kind of like, well, that's put a nice cherry on top of
of course
the last couple of years.
Because you've put a lot of hard work in up to that point, haven't you? Because I think it takes a lot of courage to like what you said earlier about taking responsibility. I think that's something that we all learn eventually. Because we always try and blame somebody else. It's their fault.
I'm 42 and I feel like I've only just grown up. I feel like I've grown up. Yeah, I never, and I didn't feel like that right throughout my 20s or 30s. Yeah, because I didn't know what was going on upstairs. Yeah, but I feel like I've grown up now, and that's partly, it's probably mostly because of taking responsibility for my actions. Yeah, and my part in things.
I love that. Yeah, that's such a good. What a way to describe it. I feel like I've grown up now.
Yeah, no,
because and I would say a lot of people probably feel the same way.
Yeah,
I think a lot of us are. We're all just trying to get by, aren't we?
We are.
We are all just trying to get by. Like if anybody had a serious conversation with anybody, because I remember, when you're younger, you look up to people in your career, don't you? You look at people that just look like they've got it sorted. Mm-hmm. They look like they know exactly what's happening, how it's happening. But the reality is they haven't. No, they're all doing the same thing we're doing. They're like a swan, it looks really steady on the top, but underneath they're all going.
I think vulnerability is really important from senior, from your directors and your senior management as well.
I agree, yeah.
Because that says to people that within your business that you're not Superman, you are vulnerable, and it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay not to be perfect at everything. So absolutely, So off the back of that award, so I was asked what I wanted to do with regards to personal development. That was part of the prize, if you want of a better word. So I sat down with the ops director at the time, the driving force behind the Excellent Award, which is Adam Gilbert, and he asked me what I wanted to do. And I said, I don't really want to do anything for myself. I want to do something to help other people.
Yeah.
I said, I'd like to look at the whole wellbeing strategy that we have as a business.
Right.
And they gave me license to go out and look at suppliers and people that deliver training courses and strategies for mental health and wellbeing within companies. And I went out to three or four different companies. Your big players like give me a couple. I can't. Your Mind, and there's one other as well, but I can't remember the name. And there's another one we went to, but they were very rigid in their approach.
Right.
With we can deliver this. This is what we'll deliver, and this is the package. And then I found through a colleague PVL.
Yep.
And they were like, we want to work with you. We'll develop what you want. We'll listen to what you need, and we'll write we'll write the strategy based on that.
Yeah.
And that was when I thought, these are the right guys for us.
Yeah.
So I spoke with them independently while I'm doing my job at the same time, and got a strategy built with them, with what we wanted to deliver. Sat down with the exec board, sold it to them. This is what it's going to cost. This is what it looks like. Big part of the decision-making process. This is what I think will work. Let's all talk about how we can improve what was already put forward. And then, got it all signed off from the exec board to get it pushed through and introduced into Promise. And all that's looked like is essentially, I think the biggest thing that I wanted to achieve from it, and I think the important thing sometimes with mental health and wellbeing is you'll have an e-learning or you'll have a webinar and it'll be done for an hour or two, and then you might do some exercises after it, and then it just gets forgotten.
Yeah.
And
it's not really very impactful.
It's a tick box exercise, and we want to get away from that. The main core focus of what I wanted to do with the strategy was to create a safe, we call it safe spaces, an environment where you feel like you can talk about your mental health or well-being, whatever it is, stress, whatever it is, work. It doesn't have to be a big issue.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be depression, anxiety. It could be stress, overwork, burnout, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
There's so many different areas of mental health, and people, it's not everyone's on, everyone's suicidal, and and that's when you need help. It's to create an environment where you don't get to that point.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone feels comfortable talking about it. So that was the cornerstone and the key point of what we wanted to try and get across. And we have training. We've developed mental health champions right across every single region. In Knight Frank Promise, all across the country. What that looks like is specific training on what it takes to be a mental health champion and what that means. It doesn't mean we're all trained counsellors. It just means we can signpost and we can point people in the right direction, and we can be an ear to anyone that wants to talk. A key contact for mental health and wellbeing within whatever region you work in. Looking at policies, all the different policies we have, whether that be policies for menopause, policies for all types of, mental health issues, that making sure that we've got policies for all the important aspects.
Just a really
wellbeing.
overarching.
Look at what the key, what we're trying to achieve to make sure we've got all that in place. And delivering training for all our leaders so they feel comfortable asking the right questions. They don't sit in their one-to-ones and just say, well, how are you? Because you're not going to get any sort of conversation from that. No. It's about asking open questions and understanding the red flags, what people might be saying, trying to get them to open up and asking the right questions and doing the right, having the right responses, not having the answers, but developing an environment where your line management duties are a case of making people feel comfortable, that they feel they can talk to you, and if not talk to you, they've got mental health champions there they can talk to. And I think what I said when I first started talking about this in intro briefings that we have at Knight Frank Promise, where every new member of staff comes into the company within the first quarter and has a day at head office where they get to meet everybody, all the directors, and understand what the core competencies core competencies are and what we are as a business.
Yeah, what's the culture? You know,
what's the culture? The first time I stood up and spoke about our wellbeing strategy, I was like, I want to be in a place where someone feels comfortable enough where they can call up their line manager and they feel comfortable enough at the moment to be able to say, I'm really sorry I can't come into work today. I've got a really bad migraine or I've got a stomach issue or whatever it might be. People do that without too much of a second thought.
They do.
But they can phone up their line manager and say, do you know what? I'm really struggling today. I need today to get my head together because I'm really on edge here with regards to I feel overworked or I feel like I'm burning out or people won't phone up and say that to their line manager.
Well, there's still a stigma, isn't there? It's still there. I know that a lot of work's been done, hasn't it?
It's getting better, but there's still a stigma there. And I think that's, if someone can phone up and be honest, I think that's the culture that I wanted to try and help to create a Night Friend Promise. And, you know, we've created safe spaces where we've had forums where we've got all our line managers into one room and spoke about scenarios. What would you do in this scenario? What would you do in that scenario to keep the conversation going? Not just deliver a package where it's a webinar. Everyone gets given the information and it gets forgotten.
Yeah.
So really
something a bit more
have
impactful.
Something substantial and something that keeps growing and something that's driven by individuals within the business who are passionate about it, so it doesn't go away.
Yeah. Do you know what I think is really great about all of that, Sean? You know, you're looking at a significantly sized business where you've been able to apply a very difficult time in your life to the overarching policies of that company, and they've allowed you to do it.
I think it speaks volumes for Night Friend Promise.
I think it really does, yeah.
And it's that they're good on their word with regards to when they look at their core values and they say people's right at the very top.
Yeah.
You know, people's first before anything else. You know, look after your people, they'll look after your clients, they'll look after your tenants, they'll look after everybody else.
Yeah.
And that's so true. I couldn't say I can't speak for other managing agents because I haven't worked for them.
Yeah.
But what I can say categorically and what I say to every single person, because I'm a training champion as well. I didn't mention that. Every single new starter that comes into the central London region, myself along with two of my colleagues, every single person gets their first day within the company. They get a proper introduction to the business, which is called a regional induction, where we take them for breakfast. Yeah, you know, we sit with a director. We sit them down and then informally, and then we sit them down and go through every aspect of what it means to work for Promise, systems we use, just an introduction to everything, to the setup.
Bloody hell, Sean, do you get any time to sleep? Hey,
listen, I have actually stepped away from a few different. Because I needed to focus on things I really cared about. So, what I spoke about earlier, I spoke about the people boards and Prevent. I stepped back from that because I was noticing that I took on too much. And it was important. I got support from, because I had I say like mental health never goes away. It's always something I keep an eye on. You know, even last year I had 2 weeks off of work because I was doing too much. Yeah. And I come back and they said, what can we do? And I went, look, I know myself well enough now to know that I need this time. I need to reassess what's going on. I need to focus on what makes me feel better. Meditation, journaling, you know, reading. Yeah. You know, I need to just, I've put, that's dipped slightly because I've been too busy. When I come back, they said, what can we do? I said, I'm going to step back from the people board. I'm going to step back from Prevent. I enjoy the training champion element, meeting every new person that comes into the region. Yeah, of course. I enjoy that. I'm really, really passionate about that because I want to give everyone a great introduction to Promise. Yeah. And obviously the wellbeing strategy and being part of that, you know, I enjoy that. But it's not just me. We've had our HR manager, HR director, who's come on board, Siobhan Bird. Shout out to Siobhan. She's amazing. She's come into the business and she's well behind the whole well-being. She's integral to driving things through and speaking to the exec board to get things signed off. She's working on that now. Young lady as well, colleague called Holly Mitchell, who's a mental health champion. But I'd say myself, Siobhan, Holly, and John Green, and also I want to make sure I'm name checking rightly, Sinead, who works at Trinity. Right. Are the doers when it comes to wellbeing strategy.
We know Sinead. Yeah, we do. Yeah.
The mental health champions across all the other regions, they're there, but they're the operational side of it to get things done. And we're a team now, you know, to making sure.
But you need that, don't you? You
can't take
to get
it all on
embedded
yourself.
in a culture, it needs to be driven, doesn't it? So, you know, you need people that are sort of pushing it in the right direction.
No, absolutely. And that keeps it fresh, and they're all really passionate about it. So that's what makes sure that it's not going to go anywhere, and it's going to be something that's going to be maintained and develop and grow with the business. So yeah, and I full support for that. You know, this wasn't free. You know, so the company, the exec board was like, "Yep, absolutely," and everyone was on board. There wasn't no objection to it. And that speaks volumes for the kind of company that I'm working for, because it was just like, well, what can we do differently? We don't just want to develop. We don't just want to deliver these webinars and then say, we look after mental health. What can we do differently?
Yeah, I mean, we have a very similar attitude, to be fair, and trying to do very similar things. It's just very important.
It's important. It creates everyone feels safe at work. Then, I mean, I didn't, you know, and that's not a dig at, you know, Mark or anyone else I worked for at the time. I didn't know where to speak to and who to turn to, because I didn't know what to do myself. And although there was a caring culture, absolutely, at that time from individuals, it wasn't embedded within the company about what are our values when it comes to well-being. And absolutely they cared, but I think we needed to just have something concrete and embedded within the structure of the business to make sure everyone knows. Everyone that's new to the company that comes in, they come in, one of the first things they hear about is how focused we are on people's well-being and making sure they're happy and content. And if they're not, what can we do to help? And that's delivered from day one for every new person that comes into the business.
But there's a fear associated with it. I mean, if you go back to your troubles and the fact that you didn't really know where to go, and in your head you'll be thinking, how will this impact my career? You know, if I'm honest about this and I talk, you know, what are they going to think? You know, and that's a terrifying thing, because we all work very, very hard and we all want to achieve a certain amount of things, but sometimes life becomes overwhelming. And you know, there's probably a lot of people that are listening to the show right now that are experiencing similar things, you know, and maybe they just don't know how understanding their business will be in that kind of scenario.
You're scared, you know. I was ambitious. I wanted to progress, you know.
Want to do well for your family as well.
I want to do well for my family. You had all them pressures you'd have as a middle-aged man. You know, what you put on yourself approaching 40. You know, that's a really difficult time for men generally, because they reevaluate their life. They evaluate their life and look at where they are. And I didn't know what was going to happen. I thought, well, they're going to think I can't cope anymore, and they're going to take everything off me, all my responsibilities. But it wasn't the case at all. It was the total opposite.
How great though that it was the total opposite.
It was the total opposite,
and because it seems to me like sort of your experience has been the driving force around them changing it and putting new things in place, which is great to see.
Yeah, I mean, the guy, my superiors and everyone I've worked with, they've always had that attitude around people. It was just getting something structured in place that is prominent within our communications was what was required with with the people around, you know, directors and our senior leadership team. They've always been people focused. So that's why they're so supportive of getting this out there. You know,
it's a people business. It really is. You know?
And since then, you know, obviously when I got that award, and I've been in 2022. It's 2022. I got promotion to senior building manager.
Congratulations.
Which was, you know, again, just clear sort of core competencies and the pathway. I knew exactly what I needed to do that, because there's such a clear structure within Night Frank Promise of what we need to do to achieve and progress. So it's really clear our core competencies and what we need to do in each element in order to be considered for promotion. That's something that's been introduced in the last few years, that's just like there's no excuse for anybody that wants to get on, because it's clear what you need to do. So I got made to senior building manager, and they gave me St James's Square to look after, gave me a building manager to look after my babies, the Forum and Feta Yard.
My babies.
And St James has become my big baby now, because that was built from the ground up, brand new building. And that's where I am at the moment, as I spoke about.
How big was the snag list?
They're still trying to finish it now.
We're still
that started in August. They're still there now. Still trying to get rid of the principal contract, and the tenants are moving in next month. So
fair enough.
So it's yeah, it's definitely made me a stronger person, which is something that Mark always used to say to me at the time. You won't feel it right now, but you'll be thankful for it.
Yes.
And it's something for sure that I'm glad happened.
Right.
It sounds crazy to have an emotional, mental breakdown.
Yeah.
But I can sit here with my hand on my heart and say it's one of the best things that's ever happened to me.
Yeah.
Because of what's come from it, what I've learned about myself and who I am today. It's due to that. So everything happens for a reason, right? I'm a great believer in that.
No, I agree.
And it's what it's given me is acceptance and understanding.
Yeah.
And acceptance is the big word for me now. I still have days and weeks. Empathy.
The ability to empathise, I think, is really important. It's crucial.
I'm not cured. Yeah. Because no one, you never. Well, some people. There's different. For me, there's different forms, of people that struggle with depression, anxiety. It's either trauma related or this is part of who they are and their makeup.
Yeah.
For me, I have bad days, bad weeks, but I've learned to notice and understand what that is.
You can manage it
and I've got that
now,
acceptance around you're not going to feel amazing every day.
Yeah.
But you'll be all right tomorrow. Well, if not tomorrow, the next day.
Yeah.
And then even the highs when I'm feeling really good and I'm at work and everything's flowing and I'm in the zone and I'm like, this ain't going to last, I'm still getting too carried away because this isn't sustainable. Yeah. And just accept that as well and accept that things go like that.
Yeah.
And then you get that level of contentment in yourself. So even when you're down, you don't get too caught up in it. Yeah. Because you feel content that it'll pass.
What a great way to look at it, isn't it?
Yeah. That's one of the biggest things. That's my biggest tool.
Was that like a coping mechanism that you learned then?
Well, yeah, after having a breakdown and exploring myself, that's the coping mechanism I learned because I definitely wasn't like that. Yeah. If you ask anyone in my early days in FM, I was passionate, but it was it got too emotionally involved, so to speak. I've always cared because that's what makes me good at my job because I care, but it was... I wasn't in control of, with contractors sometimes, they would tip me over the edge and I wouldn't be able to, I'd get too emotionally invested. Yeah. Whereas I've learned, no, I don't need to get that emotionally invested. I can care. Yeah. But I just do my job and I stay on that level playing field. Yeah. And I keep calm and there's no point in panicking if there's a leak or if there's a power cut. Or, I know what I'm doing. I feel confident enough to do it. I know who I need to call. I know what I need to do to resolve it. Yeah. There's no point in hyping myself up to that point. No, agreed. Where I'm just going to explode, just keep calm. Yeah. And that, and that helps everyone around me to stay calm as well. Yeah. Because everyone panics in an issue. When you've got an issue, your security team, M&E engineers. And if you're panicking and throwing your arms around as well, then it makes the situation 10 times worse. Exactly. Worry about what you can control. Yep, absolutely. And I can only do what I can do in a day. Yeah, true. Yeah, and if I'm not going to get it done, then it can wait till tomorrow. Exactly. Yeah. The world is not going to end. No, absolutely. I think no one's going to die. If no one's going to die, it's a good day. Then it can be done tomorrow. Exactly. So, sort of outside of work, I know that you're, you do a lot with Andy's Man Club, which is a charity that was set up to support men with, suicidal thoughts. Yeah, and things like that. Part of my mental health maintenance, which... I love the way you say that, by the way, mental health maintenance. Yeah, my well-being maintenance, things I need to do on top of myself to keep myself well. Yeah. Like, you compare it to your physical health. If you had a back condition, there's exercises you need to do, there's things you need to do. If I've got a mental health condition, there's things I need to do to help myself. If I don't do that, I don't feel good. Yeah. So as well as the things I've already mentioned with regards to reading and meditating, which I'm big on, I've learned how to, I'm big into my meditation. Not as obsessive over it as I once was, but it's there for me whenever I need to use it. Yeah. It's not about clearing your mind. It's about letting go of thoughts, and it's really helpful, particularly if I've got a big meeting or a big project going on and there's always chaos at work. Yeah, that really helps. Okay. What else do I do? Journal, beginning and end of the day, put today, make sense of the day, what I've learned, what I can take into tomorrow, what I can let go. I go to a club called Andy's Man Club every Monday at 7:00. There's a centre near everybody within the country. I think there's about 200-300 centres all across the country now. Yeah. It was developed by, I believe, a sister. Anyone involved in Andy's Man Club will get this wrong, please forgive me.
Yeah.
It was born from a sister who lost her brother due to suicide. He was only a young man.
He was
in his early 20s or mid 20s, and it was derived from that, about men being able to talk to each other and not feel like they could.
Yeah.
Brave face on it. Head of the family, whatever it is, don't want to burden anyone with their troubles.
Yeah.
Want to just sort of like soldier on through it, which doesn't work.
No.
So yeah, every Monday, 7 till 9, there's a centre near me in Chelmsford. I go down there, and we all just literally tea, biscuits. We have this black ball. And if you've got the ball, that's when you can talk.
Yeah.
They have these great facilitators down there who have a small amount of training, who get these meetings on, find a venue, get the room ready, and obviously lead the meeting because it is structured.
Yeah.
And it is just men, because men notoriously aren't very good at talking.
No.
So men talking to other men is a really good thing.
Yeah.
And it's just a good way to talk about your week, what's on your mind at the moment, and to make like-minded people with no judgment.
Yeah.
And a willing ear. So it's based on 5 questions, however big the group is.
Yeah.
And it's the 3 set questions
Right.
for everybody. It's, how's your week been?
Yeah.
Rate your week out of 10. Something positive from your week. And anything you want to get off your chest.
Yeah.
And that's when you can really open up and,
Right.
and everyone you've got the ball, you talk, everyone listens, you catch up with people in the break if you've got something that you want to talk to them about.
Yeah.
And it's just really free, and just to sort of get it off your chest and out into the open.
Yeah.
And then there's always 2 questions at the end that change from week to week, and they'll be, a bit more light-hearted. Just to get a bit more of it, it could have been a heavy meeting, or it could not have been, and it just lightens the mood a little bit at the end.
Yeah, so it depends
Things like, if you could describe a song, that means the most to you, what song would that be? Or, if little bits and pieces like that.
Yeah.
And you always come out there feeling lifted. It's good that it's on a Monday. It's a good start to the week.
Yeah.
Some people go to their meeting and that's the only way they get out of their house all week.
Yeah.
You get a lot of men that, have come out of divorces and not seeing their children, and they just feel like they can come there and talk openly and freely. And I'm sure it's prevented hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of suicides where men feel like they've got nothing.
I would say it definitely has, yeah.
And it's a big part of my week, and I really enjoy going. And I would recommend it to anybody. You don't have to be severely depressed or have severe anxiety to do it. It's not ill or suicidal. It's just somewhere to go and chat to like-minded men, and you get all sorts of people from all walks of life.
Yeah.
You're not, builders to lawyers to doctors.
Yeah.
It's a broad spectrum, and it's a great way to meet new people and not have to, the small talk that you get from day to day, everyone you talk to, people you come across. I hate small talk.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I want real chat.
Yeah.
But let's talk about work, or let's have a real chat.
Yeah.
The small talk. Oh, the weather's bad, isn't it? Or how's your weekend? All that sort of stuff. The niceties.
So my go-to stuff then, Sean.
Yeah, your go-to stuff. Yeah, the conversation openers.
Yeah.
I like real talk, and it doesn't have to all be deep and personal, but that's what I enjoy, because I think that's where you get your human connections from.
That's fair enough. So if somebody is listening that's struggling with mental health and they would like to reach out to support for something like Andy's Man Club, how do they do that? Just go online?
Yeah, Andy's Man Club.co.uk, I think it is, or .com, I'm not sure exactly what. Yeah, just type Andy's Man Club into Google, and if there's men out there that want to go out and just chat to like-minded people, that there'll be no judgment or any victimisation of anyone at all. They're just there to listen and facilitate. Then Andy's Man Club, there'll be a club near you on a Monday night at 7 o'clock. Just turn up and you won't be more welcome. It's a lovely and welcoming environment, and it's a really good place to get stuff off your chest and just feel like, and you end up just going there to catch up with people, see how they are. Yeah. And it's a nice way to sort of have that routine in my week, thrive off routine, which I need to have in my day-to-day job as well. It's really good for that, just to summarise your week before and look forward to the week coming.
Yeah.
But listen, if anyone wants to send me a private message on LinkedIn or something, then I can always direct people in the right place. Yeah, I'm happy to help anybody in any way I can.
Lovely, good stuff. All right, so outside of work, outside of mental health, tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you like to get up to?
So I am a dad. of 2 teenage boys.
Yeah.
17 and 14. My 17-year-old is looking like, well, he's going to be going to uni in Manchester in September.
Good town.
Yeah, it is a good town. Yeah, we've spoke about earlier. You know,
Yeah.
I've got roots from up there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I enjoy. When I went up there with him for the open day, yeah, I love it. I love the
He
Northwest.
won't like the weather. That's the only thing about it. It's a bit damp up in Manchester.
It is.
Yeah.
It is, but it's a good, vibrant place to be for a student.
Brilliant city. City.
Hey, I'm going to miss him terribly.
Yeah.
I will miss him terribly. I think one thing what I've really grown for me over the last few years, discovering who I am, is being able to be present for my boys, and as they grow up, you know, being mentally there for them as well as being physically there.
Be a better father.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to miss him terribly.
At least you get nights out in Manchester, Sean. That's
go up there, yeah, absolutely. And my 14-year-old son, he's about to start his GCSEs.
Yeah.
Obviously, as I said, I've been married, been with my wife now for 22 years.
Yeah.
You know, one and only, so to speak, one woman man.
Yeah.
She's my rock. You know, been there through thick and thin for me in the background for all this. I couldn't ask for a better wife.
Yeah, I'd say the same thing
She's
about
so supportive of my career as well. Always told me to follow my dreams, what I want to do. Always told me, she's always rated me. She just says, you're destined for greatness.
Yeah.
You know, just been there for me through thick and thin. You know, I can't wish for a better woman.
Yeah.
And yeah, just football. You know, I love my football. So any sport.
Yeah.
Follow Arsenal. Whether that's a good or bad thing, you know, remains to be seen. Yeah, I've just took up squash with my youngest son. I'm really enjoying that. Really enjoying that. Need to lose a few pounds.
Yeah.
Dogs. Love my dogs.
Yeah, same.
Dogs are better than people.
Agreed.
Dogs are better than people.
What dogs you got?
German Shepherd and a Labrador.
I've got a Labrador.
Love them to bits. You know, love them to bits. The only people that place to see when I walk through the door.
Exactly. Yeah.
My kids don't even know I'm in, and the wife's too busy with something else.
They don't answer back, Sean.
They don't. Just wag the tail and they're happy to see
and they don't answer back.
Yep. Unconditional love. And that obviously running my kids around everywhere like a taxi takes up all my time outside of work.
Yeah.
And listen, I love my job. I enjoy my job. I wake up in the morning and I'm happy to go in. Yeah. So I'm lucky. I'm very grateful for that, because there's not many people that can say that.
Yeah.
And I think it's important. I think it's important that you feel like that. And if you don't feel like that, you shouldn't be doing that job.
I completely agree. We spend so much time working. It's important that you do something you enjoy.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's not always possible for everybody. That's another thing that you've got to take that into account. It's not
always possible for everybody. And I feel very fortunate that I'm doing what I'm doing around the people that I'm doing and for the company that I'm working for. And listening to other people, particularly Andy's Man Club, that's not the case for everybody. Yeah. It's not easy for everyone just to change something. You know, it's not. It's a big thing for a lot of people. So, yeah, gratitude's a big thing for me, and I couldn't be more grateful for what I've got in my life now. 40s are by far the best decade of my life.
I agree. I'm the same.
By far the best decade of my life. Yeah. I was really worried about turning 40, but you know, I've been really enjoying it.
I feel really set. Like I know what's happening. I'm on it. You know, there's no confusion. I just know, laser focused. I'm like, right, this is, you know, I know what I want to do. I know what I want to achieve. I know the type of person I want to be, the type of father I want to be.
No, and I mean, I've got great people around me. I want to briefly mention before we wrap up, like Mark Walcott, who I report into now, and he's been someone I've gone through the ranks with almost at Knight Frank Promise. And you know, Mark Healy was one of his mentors along the way as well, along with Jason Taylor. And to be able to work with him, it's an absolute joy and a pleasure, because it's a very different relationship to the one I had with Mark Healy. Yeah, we bounce off each other and we come up with ideas, and I feel trusted to get on my job. And if I need him, he's there. He's supportive in every way. You know, he understands who I am as well and what makes me tick. And it's a pleasure to work with him on at Knight Frank as well, along with the other people I work with. I wanted to make sure I mentioned him because he's been a really important part of my journey through FM as well. You know, he took over from Mark Healy as the BM at Oldbridge House, and I've always worked with him in one way or another. So for Mark to move on, for me to spread my wings and sort of develop into my own character from what he's taught me.
I thought you were going to burst out in a song there, Sean.
No, you don't want to hear that. You definitely don't want to hear that.
No.
And be able to have Mark there to sort of work with him. It's a really nice place to be.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel a very fortunate man.
Yeah.
I feel a very lucky man sitting here today in the situation I'm in.
Yeah.
And I'm actually, the other thing that's taking up my time at the moment, for all my rigmarole and issues I've had down the years in my adult life, I've never been able to be in a situation, in a position to be able to buy a house.
Yeah.
And we're just literally about to complete on a house. We bought a house about 3 miles out from Chelmsford City Centre, semi-rural. That was our dream.
Yeah.
And we're just about to exchange, just to find a few bits and pieces to deal with the solicitors. We're just about to exchange, and I never thought I'd be in a position to own my own property. That seemed like a distant sort of unachievable goal for me. Because
it's the goal I currently have and I'm working towards as we speak.
Yeah.
Moving into a caravan, actually, so I can save a deposit. Yeah.
Wow. You're moving into a caravan so you can save through.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like, it was because
in my mother-in-law's garden.
Whatever you got to do to get there.
Yeah. It's the only way to do it, unfortunately,
Absolutely.
And I just kind of think, I want the security associated with the house.
Yeah.
But I also want to leave something for my children if anything ever happens to me.
That's it.
And bricks and mortar is a good thing to leave them.
I want to live somewhere that we can call our home and make it for our forever home that our grandchildren can come to, and our kids get that financial security for when they are starting their own families.
Exactly.
And there's always a place for them to come back to as well.
Base of operations.
Yeah, absolutely. I've always wanted to be able to provide that, but through my recklessness and my spending habits when I didn't know who I was as a person, I've never been in a position to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So not only has the last 3.5, 4 years made me more emotionally stable, it's also made me more financially stable.
Yeah.
And it's put us in a position now where our kids are growing up. Yeah. We both work full time.
Yeah.
And we've got enough money in the bank to be able to do it.
Yeah.
And I just never thought I'd get here. So I'm in a good spot right now. Work, life, home, family, everything, yeah.
That's great to hear. It's great to hear that you've come out the other side and you're in a good position.
It's a constant, you've got to keep an eye on things.
You do. Yeah.
You can't get complacent.
Yeah.
You've got to make every day count. Live for the day. I try not to think too far ahead.
Same.
You can plan.
Yeah.
But then plans don't come off. Don't get too caught up in it.
Too hard on yourself. Yeah.
But present moment.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the meditation. The present moment keeps me calm, keeps me grounded, and helps me in every aspect of my life.
Right.
Not just work. It helps me in every aspect of my life. Whereas my wife is pulling her hair out at the moment with just wanting to get into our new house.
I'm
like, it'll happen.
Yeah.
It's happening. We're doing what we can. Just chill. It'll happen.
Yeah, we'll get there in the end.
And that's that's night and day to the sort of person I used to be as well. So
right.
I'm not saying I'm always calm, cool and collected. I'm definitely not. But at the cornerstone of who I want to be and the person I believe I am.
It's far better now.
That's my core value, so to speak.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Well, listen, Sean, that brings us to the end. How did you find it?
Yeah, no, good. So I hope I didn't go on, obviously I know it's an FM podcast. So I wanted to talk about FM. Yeah. And I'm conscious that a lot of it was obviously personally about me and my journey with mental health and how that's impacted my life at work and at home.
But thank you for sharing that, Sean.
No, absolutely.
It took a bit of courage to do that, so we really appreciate it.
It's important that people are open and honest when they're talking about it, because it makes other people feel more comfortable, and that it's okay not to be okay.
Yeah.
It's best to talk up because that'll help you in your career and whatever you want to do, and it'll help you in your personal life, it'll help your personal relationships, it'll help your professional relationships, it'll help you in any way. I've never heard anybody that's opened up and asked for help that's regretted it. Yeah. I'm not, as far as I'm aware, that ever happens.
Yeah.
If you're in a toxic environment at work or at home, that might not be the case. Yeah. But let's hope that I've made enough of a difference where I work that people feel comfortable enough to be able to talk up and ask when they need help, or if they just want to chat and get things off their chest, they feel comfortable enough to be able to do that. That is the legacy I want to leave at Night Frank Promise.
I think it sounds to me like you've done a great job in terms of shifting the culture.
Work in progress.
So, well done for that. But yeah, that's absolutely fantastic. Well, listen, Sean, thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
As Sean said, if anybody feels the need to reach out to him on LinkedIn, please feel free. He follows the podcast, so you can find him that way, or just search for him on the LinkedIn bar. And once again, Andy's Man Club. If you need any support and you're a man and you're feeling a bit like, I don't know what I need a bit of help, a bit of guidance, then just go on Google and find it. But Sean, thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having me.
Brilliant. All right, Wear Many Hats listeners, see you on the next one. Bye-bye.